You might want to turn your speakers down for a moment. This is an old Stanley belt sander I inherited from my dad. I have no idea how old it is exactly, but it would be from the mid-70s, so it's pretty much about 40 years old. And I don't really have a whole lot of use for it, but I thought I'd like to try and see if I can take it apart and see if I can lubricate it, so at least it will run nicely. It'd be kind of neat to do that. This cord is pretty much had it too, so one of the things I'm thinking I will try to do is put on a new cord. So when I went looking online, I could find very little about this. I hadn't even known that Stanley made power tools, but they did. But yeah, I could not find when was this manufactured, all that sort of stuff. I found exactly one comment from somebody who said that here, let's back that up a bit. That Bosch bought out the Stanley. Sorry. I found exactly one comment online that Bosch had bought out the Stanley power tools back in the very early 80s to try to get a foothold in the US. I have no idea if that's true, because again, it's just one comment. The belt's a bit loose, but it's not cracked, so that's good. Because I also read online that you will not find parts for this at all, especially not the belt. Okay. It's certainly got a lot of dust in it, which is, you know, no surprise. My dad used this. He was a Finnish carpenter. And yeah. Nobody really did much about dust collection back in the 70s, and not that belt sanders are really that easy to have dust collection on. Oh yeah. Look at that. Remove to attach hose adapter. Looks like dust collection was an optional extra. Okay, not sure where I can lubricate. I think I'm a little afraid to get into that motor, but I think, let's see if I can figure out where the noise is coming from. Oh, that's an idea. What if I take off the belt? That's telling me don't mess with the motor. The motor sounds fine, so it's down in the wheel or maybe in the gears. So in fact, I think this has to come off in order to get in there, but I don't see any way to get that off. So I discovered that this is just threaded on, and I just needed to wedge the wheel, and then I could just spin it right off. That's kind of neat. Glad I didn't wreck anything. Yet. Nothing is unreversible so far. Oh, don't. There we go. Yeah. There doesn't seem to be much I can do in here. I've got a bit of grease, wheel bearing grease. I use this for my bikes and stuff, and let's try adding a little grease. I read something about getting it into the teeth and not so much elsewhere. I tried Googling about lubricating the gearbox on a belt sander, and not surprisingly, there was, you know, nothing. Because it's... don't think this is exactly a common thing that people are going to be doing. But really, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, it's no big loss. All the small engine repair people out there are probably just screaming at their sets saying, "You're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong." Oh boy. Yeah, probably. Fun, 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 fun. I took the switch apart as I was fiddling around with it, but I need to put that back in there if I'm going to give this a test. Actually, one of the things I wanted to do was replace the cord, but they don't have any connections in here. It just goes right into the switch. So if I were to replace the switch, I would probably have to try to maybe extend the wires into here. There might be some room for some wire nuts in there if I want to do that. But let's first see if the sound is any better before I start fiddling with that. Okay. Ah, interesting. This cord is notched. It's shaped. It's not round. It's got a square bit on the one side and a round bit on the other side. Now it fits, sort of. It fits enough for me to put one screw in there, which is all I really want for testing purposes. Belt, 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 belt. Okay. Ear protection. I don't know. It runs. I still hear just a little rattle. I don't know if there might be some bearings in this thing, and I don't know how to get that drive wheel out. And yeah. This might be just something for the museum and not something for anything else. I had a look at the brushes while I was inside, and there is still about maybe a 1/16 of an inch on them. So there's still some room there, but really not a whole lot. So this is probably a fail, though I had fun taking it apart. I never really did have high expectations. I almost never use a belt sander, so... But it was just kind of fun to take apart an old tool that I got from my dad. I should weigh it. This thing is all steel. It's, I don't know, 10 pounds? Big heavy beast. Getting a belt on is another trick. Because you look at this and you're like, how do I get the belt on here? Well, these you have to push. And the spring goes, and then you can get the belt on. And then you have to pop the lock. There we go. Push it down and then it pops up. Just have a little bit stiff there. Get those ear protection on again. Aren't you guys lucky I turned down the volume of the video for you? I want to look at something neat here. See that little notch? That's just worn from the belt rubbing up against it for a long time. Yeah, this is an old beast. Yeah, I didn't have really high hopes for this. I mean, it would have been nice to get this back in perfect working order, but we only sort of have mediocre working order, and as I mentioned, you know, I'll never get a belt or any other parts for this thing again. So the first time something breaks, it's toast. But I almost never use a belt sander, so it might be okay for just my mediocre use. But anyways, I had some fun in the shop, and I hope you did too. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.